Everyone, so Rui Hachimura is back in the Lakers facility and he's continuing his grind, continuing to put in the work. I've really highlighted a lot of the players that have been putting in the hours, putting in the work, because I love to see it, right? We have a mission, we have a goal to try to go win an NBA championship this year. And Rui Hachimura is going to be a huge part of that. I still am kind of curious if he's going to start or if he's going to come off the bench. There is an argument either way. Personally, I think your best course of action is to bring him off the bench as like the primary option and just elite level scorer off the bench because he's a guy that can absolutely get buckets. And I really want to see the Lakers highlight him more on the offensive end. It was something I was screaming at the walls for, even when we were doing the live streams, the watch-along games and stuff. I was screaming, get Rui the ball. Like, how many times was the offense just completely stagnant and Rui's just kind of regulated to just being a spot-up three-point shooter? And it's like, you could just run so many sets, run some pick and pops, put him on the low post, let him go to work, put him on the high block. Like, there's so many ways that you could utilize him and allow him to go to work with his size and his shooting ability. Working with Phil Handy, he was working with Phil Handy this offseason as well. They were in Japan, grinding away, him and Jared Vanderbilt. And I just think that, you saw what Phil Handy was able to do in such a short period as far as kind of fixing that little hitch in his three-point shot or in his shot period. And I imagine he's continued to improve and continue to get better. Obviously, we need him to knock down threes, and there are going to be times where he is going to be kind of relegated to just being a spot-up three-point shooter. But you have such a great offensive weapon here. This is a guy that I legitimately think could go get you 20 on any given night. I really do. He's efficient. He's effective. He's got good size, good strength. Doesn't get pushed around. He's strong enough and physical enough to get to his spots, right? Use that, right? We don't have very many sizable wings that are capable of doing that on this roster. I mean, LeBron is another one that's in that field, but Anthony Davis, if he's playing the four, he's capable of doing that. But you have Rui who can do that. Now, personally, I just think if your starting lineup is going to be D'Lo, Austin Reeves, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, I think you have enough offense in that starting unit that having Jared Vanderbilt, especially if he's a much more improved three-point shooter, which he's been working very hard this offseason on, I think he just makes most sense as the point of attack. But I also think most likely, this is just my guess, is that they'll start Jared Vanderbilt. He'll play, the first 5 minutes or so as the primary lockdown defensive guy on the best player on the other team. And then come the, 5-minute mark, whatever, Rui Hachimura will be the first forward to sub in for either Jared Vanderbilt or a LeBron James. And that'll kind of be the rotation. So I think Rui will end up playing more than Jared Vanderbilt. I think most likely what they'll do is they'll have Jared Vanderbilt start the games, and if games are close, they'll have Jared Vanderbilt finish the games and just be a legit defensive guy because you got to be able to stop the other team, right? And Rui Hachimura at the three, some matchups I think he could do, and I could see them maybe starting Rui in specific matchups, but I think for the most part, he has a harder time guarding the twitchier wings, right? Like a Mikal Bridges, Andrew Wiggins, guys like that are quick, really quick-footed, got a good first step. Rui just doesn't have the lateral quickness to stay in front of some of those guys. And we saw that be a problem. But he's so durable and strong and has such a great lower center of gravity. We've seen him in his ability to guard, the Aaron Gordons of the world and even bigger guys and a Triple J or, a Nikola Jokic. He was great against Karl Anthony Towns, right? That is, I think, Rui Hachimura's best position is playing the four. He's a mismatch for the defense when he's in that spot, and he's also just a better defensive guy in that spot going forward. And I do think personally, Rui is going to be the LeBron James replacement. I think once LeBron either retires or goes plays with the Sun or does whatever he's going to do, that's when I think Rui Hachimura steps in to that starting role. More likely than not, our starters will be D'Lo, Reeves, Vando, Rui, and Anthony Davis. Now, the Lakers get another star or something like that, right? If they get a if they bring in even like a DeMar DeRozan at some point, right? Maybe they swap D'Lo for DeMar DeRozan. Obviously, you got to throw a little more in, but you get my point, right? Well, then you could just switch Austin Reeves to the point and have like a DeRozan, Vando, Rui, and then Anthony Davis. Again, just using that as an example, not saying necessarily we will or do anything like that, but just a point, just one of the names that popped into my head, right? So my point is that I think Rui is best suited as like, here's our sixth man. Like, your job is to just dominate on the offensive end. But you have to put him in position to do that, right? He's not a point guard where he's bringing the ball up and making the decisions. Okay, am I going to score here or am I not? No, he's a guy that you need to get the ball to, right? So you need to run sets and run offense through Rui Hachimura. And I fully believe that they should, right? Like, I'm not saying every single possession Rui needs to touch the ball at some point, but I think he should be a 15 to 17 point a game off the bench guy, right? Like, legitimately, I think that there's a real argument that he could be, when all is said and done this season, a potential 6 man of the year type player. Even if he doesn't win it, just in that ballpark, right? If he could give us, 15 and 8 or something like that off the bench, that's really good, right? And that's very promising. And also, if he is going to be a big fixture and he is going to have a big role for the Lakers at some point, whether it's next season or it's the following season, within the next 3 years, during Rui's new contract, he's very likely going to step into that starting role, right? And he's very likely going to step into a bigger, more prominent role. Well, start planning and positioning and working him towards that now. Obviously, you got LeBron James, you got Anthony Davis, you got, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, obviously. He's emerged and really been a real fixture. You got all these guys that need the ball, are effective with the ball, are going to need to get their shot attempts, things like that. And then that's not even to mention all the, the scrap shots, right? Where Vando gets 3 or 4 attempts per game. You got, Jackson Hayes and Gabe Vincent and whoever is in the rotation. You got that. And then also, if they end up getting a Christian Wood, then that could be something else because he's going to want his shot attempts. So I'm not saying Rui's going to get, 20 attempts per game, but he is so efficient at shooting the basketball. And you'd imagine he's only going to improve this year. And if that's the case, right, he doesn't need 20 shots to go get you 15 points, right? If you give him something you give him 12 shots, and this is a guy that could go get you, I think, 15 points, right? Because he's going to get some free throws. Some of them are going to be threes. Some of them are going to be spot ups. You're talking about a legit 6'8", sizable forward, 240 pounds, 7'2" wingspan. So he's got great size, great length, great versatility. He can switch on bigger defenders, as we've seen, or bigger offensive assignments, as we've seen. And he's a guy that has proven, when he gets attempts, right? So, for example, with Washington, he averaged just under 11 field goals a game. He averaged 10.8 field goal attempts per game, and he averaged 13 points, right? His first 2 years in the league, he averaged 11.4 exactly. 11.4 exactly in 2019 and 2020. Those 2 years, he averaged 11.4 attempts, which is kind of odd that it was the exact same amount of shot attempts. But nonetheless, the first year he averaged 13.5 points. The second year he averaged 13.8 points. So if you give him basically 2 more shot attempts per game, there's his 15 points, right? Again, with 11 shot attempts, he gives you 13 points. If you give him 12 or 13 shot attempts, he should be able to get you about 15 points per game. And off the bench in a prominent role to where he is the primary offensive threat coming off the bench, and, you're giving LeBron rest, and you're giving, say, Anthony Davis some rest, and you're going with a Jackson Hayes or something like that, who doesn't have the offensive, repertoire that Anthony Davis does. That's where Rui can shine, right? You can literally sit LeBron James and Anthony Davis, both of them, and you'd still have enough firepower and size and length and everything you need. That's something we didn't have last year, right? And Darvin Ham loves to sit, his stars at the same time, right? And it falls into, because so many people were complaining about it last year, but he's not the only one. Lots of teams, lots of the greatest coaches ever do that, right? I mean, even Steve Kerr has set Clay and Steph at the same time, right? Like, and had, Jordan Poole or whomever, but we didn't have the offensive threat because Austin Reeves hadn't emerged at that time. We didn't have Rui Hachimura at that time. So now you could sit LeBron and AD and have, a D'Lo, a Rui, have a Taurean Prince, a Jackson Hayes, and like a Gabe Vincent or something like that, right? And now you have D'Lo and Rui who can just go get buckets for you. You got Taurean Prince, who's, 38% three-point shooter. Gabe Vincent is 38, 39% three-point shooter. He wasn't last year, but he's capable. We've seen him be able to do that, right? And you got Jackson Hayes that's just cleaning up the glass, as well as Rui Hachimura. And you put Rui in a position to be a primary guy. And you can run him next to LeBron. You run him next to Anthony Davis, right? But my point is, you got to get him opportunity. Because you could be Michael Jordan. But if you're not getting the shot attempts, you're not getting highlighted in the offense, and you just basically get put into the corner, never put baby in the corner, you end up becoming just another guy, right? The thing that makes players great is the opportunity. I mean, almost every player in the league can give you 20 if they shot 20 attempts, right? It's just the NBA and the league we're in now. But, there's... don't remember who it was. Might have been Paul George. But there was an NBA player on a podcast that talked about that and was like, like the difference between, in some cases, not all cases, but the difference between stars and just like other guys is the opportunity and attempts, right? And then also consistency, right? Because the difference between like a Paul George and a Rui Hachimura is Paul George gets his 20 plus shot attempts per game, and consistently on a nightly basis, he's going to give you X percentage and give you X amount of points, right? Well, if Rui is given that opportunity and he's given the shot attempts, and if he can find that consistency and be efficient and effective, well, then now you have an all-star level guy. And I'm not saying that Rui is ever going to evolve into that, but he has the potential. We've seen him do it. We've seen him even with Washington have 30-point games where he was just cooking and Washington made him a primary focus, right? It's just, you got to give him the opportunity. And if the Lakers give him the opportunity, I personally believe that he'll deliver. But those are my thoughts and opinions. And as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comments below. What do you think? What do you think of Rui back in the lab at the Lakers facility? What do you think of Rui this upcoming season? Are you pumped? Are you excited? How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.